Welcome back to Primetime Bets with Shuey and Shuey. We're here breaking down the Week 5 slate for you. We had a crazy Week 4. We had a rough Week 4 for me. It was, I know I got to pay up a bet. Shuey is already smiling. He already knows that I've got a bet to pay up. You'll get that tonight. Shuey, what's going on? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good betting wise, but I mean, outside of that, Ravens had another horrible, gut wrenching loss. Late field goal to the Bills. Hoping that this week coming up, we're coming off two home game losses in a row. Hopefully, this week in prime time against the Bengals, we can pick it up a notch and get that bona fide win that we need.
We'll get to that game. I hear that the Ravens are making an announcement at 4 o'clock. I'm hearing wins that are. I believe that was put out on Twitter that the Ravens will be making an announcement at 4 o'clock. I wonder what that means. Obviously, the thing that you worried about in that game is Lamar getting shut down and that offense kind of becoming predictable. So I wonder if this is a change in offensive coordinator. I wonder if it's I can't imagine what it is, or I can't imagine it being a change in coaching. I could only see this being something for offensive coordinator, maybe a quarterback's coach, or
Where are you
but
seeing this at there, Mark?
let me pull it up.
I know that they're doing today after Harbaugh's presser. They're doing a Jimmy Smith. He's retiring a Raven this afternoon, so I know that's going to be going down today.
There's supposed to be. Is that what it is for Jimmy Smith? Maybe I'm missing that. I thought I saw a press conference at 3:30 today, and I thought that there might be something about the team. So if that's
Yeah,
wrong.
I mean they always do their weekly pressers on Monday afternoons, and they're doing something for Jimmy Smith at 4 o'clock after I think.
Okay, all right. So then maybe I'm just out of the loop here on that. So who knows what it is? But either way, you'd like to see them build a little more offensive punch. I know it was a hard game in the rain yesterday. Still probably a great game, fun game to be at and go to. But yeah, it's got to be really gut wrenching to lose in that fashion. I still have faith in Baltimore. We'll talk about them in a little bit here. But let's go through our bets, Shuey. You've got them up. I had a pretty rough week. If you look at our best bets for Monday, I had Miami +4. The Tua injury, I think, threw that out. Shuey, you had the over in that game.
I
I
had
think
the
if
over. Yeah,
I think if Tua plays, we probably see two very different outcomes of that game. And honestly, for me, I think this says to me that the Bengals, people are kind of giving the Bengals like the benefit of the doubt now from this game, and I think that they should still be a little worried because if Teddy Bridgewater did not come in that game, I actually don't think that they win that game at the end of it. So for me, Miami +4, the over 47, hoping that those would have been better. You hit on Minnesota -2.5. I think that was the one we were talking about before. That was one I had in as my best bet before. So we had Minnesota -2.5. I lost the Eagles -48. But in my Thursday, I tweeted out Thursday, take the Eagles +6.5. They ended up doing that for you. So good on you there. Ravens, if you got it early in the week, we did say Ravens +3.5 when it was +3.5, and if that was the case, you still did cover on that bet. But a couple bad ones for me. Took the under at 50 for the Seattle Detroit game. That was a huge mistake for me. But we did get other good ones. Dallas +3. Shuey had Giants -2.5. Arizona +1.5. So good stuff. Not a great week for me though. And top it all off with me having to take a shoe and Shuey. We'll get that tonight during Monday Night Football.
I'm ready to see that little rain boot light up, Mark. Better
Oh yeah, I forgot. I told you it
give
lights
it
up too. So
give
so
it
you'll
that give it
see.
that love tap tonight.
I will. I'll give it a little love tat just for you. So let's go into Monday night. Tonight we've got Los Angeles Rams at the 49ers. It hasn't really moved that much. It's been moving between 2 and 1.5, and it was 1 for a moment. I missed it there, but I had this as a best bet last week. I'm 1 for 4 right now. I still have San Francisco -1.5 to go as a best bet. Hopefully that one pulls out for me. I'm still taking it, feeling really good about it. How about you?
I go the opposite direction here. I'm still looking at Rams +2. I think that the Rams are going to try to get that offensive steam back going again. They just don't seem to have the click like they did last year. I think they got to get Allen Robinson more involved, and I think they got the running backs a little more healthy now, get a little bit more 1-2 punch from Henderson and Akers there. So I think that this is the game where the Rams need to say to themselves, we're going to step it up and try to go all out here.
Sure. And for me, honestly, the other way I think is the San Francisco 49ers, even with a new quarterback, feel like they've already got it a little more together for them. I know they had that rough week 1. Again, I've been willing to sort of give that one a pass. But I think they're a little more together with themselves. They have that continuity. Jimmy G stepping in has not really changed that much of the offense's outlook. Some people think it's better. I think it's probably about the same. But to be honest, San Francisco always seems to have their number. It's game at home. I think they're fired up for it. You always play up to those Super Bowl champs, and I think the Rams are getting a little of that this year where they're getting everybody's best. They're going to have to. And I think this is no exception. I think the San Francisco always plays them pretty well, puts up points on them. And I would take this all the way to -3 if it happened. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a best bet by the time I get to -3, but I would take this all the way to -3. And I think we have a couple that we disagree on, but since we're on the opposite there, that's a Shuey and Shuey candidate. We'll talk it down at the end.
We already got our week 4 Shuey and Shuey.
Well, that's fair. Okay, all right. Well, if we have nothing else, then we'll go to.
Oh,
this
we got a spicy one down there, I think.
All right. Let's hit it up. Okay. Moving on. Indy at Denver. This is a really interesting game because both of these running backs are looks like they're not going to play. I think Jonathan Taylor is still going to try and play. He shouldn't, but he's one of those guys that's got pride on the line and makes it. I never missed a game, and I think it's probably to his detriment if he does play. But I think Jonathan Taylor might try to play this game. Javonte looks like the news comes out that he's got a torn ACL. He's done for the year. And you're looking at Denver sitting at -3.5. I think they probably got a little more to recover on their end. I like Mike Boone as a backup running back. They already have Melvin Gordon there in the passing game. So I don't even know if I'd move the line for either of these guys being out. The line has moved a little bit from -2.5. I'm leaning Denver right now, but it's moved to -3.5 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So I'm thinking this is an avoid, but I'm probably still leaning Denver. Sounds like Shaq Leonard's going to be out as well.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where I'd also lean. I think Denver on the money line would be my take here in terms of the matchup. But I like the under here. Right now it's at 43.5. This could be a very low scoring game. And I think that 43.5 is a good number to take on the under here.
All right, moving on right along. We've got another London game this week. My New York Giants taking on Green Bay. This thing moved a lot too. A lot of these lines. If I can impress on anything on any of you out here, take a look at these lines Sunday night. Take a look at them Monday. If you have a strong opinion on them Sunday night or Monday, and we have a good idea of what these teams are at that point, fire a bet off. Because right now, Green Bay I think was at 8.5 or 9 last night, and once the overtime hit, it slowly creeped down. It was 8.5 even this morning. It's already -7.5 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm still leaning Giants plus 7.5. I think that extra quarter of play, and it was a full quarter too. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna as we scored, it came down here. It was a full quarter of play for the Packers. They're having a long flight. They played the later game on Sunday. I think it's going to be a tough week for them. Daniel Jones is hurt, but I don't know if that's necessarily a downgrade for the Giants. They're a hard-fought team, and they're gonna bring it. I think they're gonna keep it close enough to cover.
Yeah, I do too. I lean the Giants at plus 7.5. I think they've been one of the more surprise teams this year. Haven't been outstanding, haven't been bad, but have done just enough to be relevant in all their games, and they're winning games too. So I mean, Saquon looks like he is back to full strength and being back to himself before the injury. So love to see that from a fantasy aspect. Yeah, I guess we just don't really know what we're going to get from this Green Bay offense. Different top target each week. Seems like they're still working out the best with their running backs. So it should be a good game. Not one that I'm going to get up early to watch.
Yeah. So right now, I think for those two games, our Thursday night, we're leaning the under, and we're leaning Denver, and then we're leaning We're leaning the Giants and the points. I really think if you can get the Giants, I think later in the week, if people start to forget that it was an overtime game, if people literally start to forget that this game is actually in London and not in Green Bay, they will bet Green Bay. It will happen. So if you can get the Giants at a higher line, if they get to 8.5, that becomes closer to best bet territory for me. So right now I'm leaning. Go ahead and that we're forcing a bet on all our primetime games, all our special games. So we're gonna say Giants plus 7.5. But if you can get a few more points, while the people who aren't really paying so much attention take Green Bay a little bit more, I would pounce on that. Moving right along, we're going to go on to the Sunday slate, and we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go with our favorite fantasy plays over the games in order. So we'll tell you if it's 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, but we're going to start off with our favorite fantasy plays. I think at the top, I'm being presumptuous, but the first game we've got Philly and Arizona, 49.5 point over under, and Philly -5 on DraftKings, -5.5 on FanDuel. What do you got for this one, Shuey?
I am taking a best bet on the over at 49.5. I'd also lean the Cardinals at plus 5.5 right now. If that gets back to that 6.5 range, I would smash that as well. But these are two very good scoring offenses. Arizona has been really, really good in the second half of games this year. And I just think that this should be somewhat of a shootout. And I think that our Arizona should be playing from behind in the second half, but we'll do enough to keep it close.
Yeah, I think they've had quite a few of those games where they've been able to come back and make that. But they've had really bad starts, and I don't know if the teams that they're coming back on are all that great to begin with. So it's hard for me to really see that playing out with this Eagles defense. I know that they're on the road. I'm not going to bet it because I really don't like. If you think about them as a home advantage, if you swing it back to the Eagles being at home, that would make them an 11 or an 11.5 point favorite. I think that's a little too much for Kyler and Arizona, although they're not looking so great. But I'm still going to leave the Eagles -5.5. Honestly, the Eagles in the market right now feel like they are so undervalued. Last week, 6.5 points, willing to lay him down on Jacksonville. I know Jacksonville's a good team, but this team right now, this Eagles team, especially at home, especially with the defense they have and the home field advantage they have right now, is probably the best team in the NFC. And I'm not afraid to say that right now. They should be the team based right now. If they can keep their home field advantage and their schedule is a cakewalk right now, they should be the team coming out of the NFC right now. And for me, the Cardinals are one of those teams that still don't quite have it together. And I think if they didn't win yesterday, you'd be talking about coaching changes. You'd be talking about other things with Kingsbury and the Cardinals front office. So I'm going to lean 5.5. Not my favorite, but Joe smashing the over at 49.5 is the best bet. I love it, and that's why we love her for fantasy. So if you get your hands on this game and you have players that you're desperate, break some ties in favor of these high over/under games. Let's move right along. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. That's a 48.5 point over/under. That's one we also really like for fantasy. I'm still leaning Tampa Bay -8.5. They just got their butts handed to them by Kansas City last night. And I think it was a little personal. If we're watching that game, it felt a little bit personal from the Super Bowl loss. So the team overall, though Godwin had that rough hit last night, I think he's all right. Looks like they're coming out of this game fairly healthy on offense. Brady's still looking sharp. He played really well last night. And Atlanta can hang, but they're going to be down Cordell Patterson. He's going to be out for the next 4 weeks. And 8.5, the 48 point over/under. I like that too. I'm leaning over on that. But I will lean Tampa Bay -8.5 in this game. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I'll lean. I think we've got Tampa Bay at 8 on FanDuel right now. So I'll take Tampa Bay at 8 there. And Tom Brady, he had a slow start against the Chiefs last night, but kind of came back into form a little bit to put up a little bit of a comeback there, put some points on the board. But I think Tampa Bay is another one of those teams that's kind of off to a slower start that is going to be wanting to pick things back up again this week. And I think that playing against Atlanta hasn't been super strong, but hasn't been super weak as expected. But I think that it's one of those matchups where Tampa Bay wants to really lay the hammer on somebody.
So, a couple things for me. Atlanta has shown in the first couple weeks that they can hang. But again, Cordero Patterson, I know moving a line on a running back seems so foolish, but he's not quite a running back for them. He's a little more than that for them.
He's been like their main focal point.
And on top of it, Marcus Mariota can't throw a ball past 5 yards, and that might be generous. It seems like they completely went away from it at a certain point yesterday. So right now, Atlanta has been, even with Kyle Pitts, everyone's been talking about, oh, Kyle Pitts, he's going to be coming and breaking out. And I'm sure that he might get a little more uptick in targets and all that with Cordero out. But I don't see this team being a huge... I don't see them taking that 8.5. I don't see them laying that 8. I could see Tampa Bay winning this game like 35-12. This might be the first game that I think Atlanta just can't hang. And let's move right along to the team that played Atlanta yesterday. And that's Cleveland Browns at home taking on the Chargers. Chargers are -3. I like the Chargers -3 as a lean right here. And over under 47.5. And this is on both sites. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the Chargers on a lean at -3. But the one that I like best here is the over at 47.5. Cleveland, even with Jacoby Brissett in there, has shown that their running game is superior. And Nick Chubb has looked fabulous. And on the other side, Herbert put up a couple tutties last week. That offense seems to be clicking. They might get Keenan Allen back next week from the hamstring injury. So I take the over here. I think both these teams can show that they can put some points on the board. And this one was this close to being a best bet for me, but this would have been number 6 on the week for me here.
Honestly, I think I'm going to come with you, and I'm going to move that to a bet on the over at 47.5. I was changing all these lines not 10, 15 minutes ago, and I swear I've just, I must have missed that one. I will take 47.5 over as well. Moving right along, Miami at the Jets. This is a 1 o'clock game. Miami is -3 on DraftKings, -3.5 on FanDuel, and 43.5 over under on DraftKings, 44.5 on FanDuel. And it looks like Tua's going to be out for this game. I think we confirmed that Tua's not going to be there for this game now. And not that I don't want to don't hear what I'm not saying. I didn't really like how Zach Wilson looked altogether, but their team as a whole looks better than the sum of Zach Wilson, if I can say that. And I think I'm going to take the Jets +3.5 here as a best bet.
Yeah, I was originally, before the Tua news came out, wasn't really expecting him to play. I was looking at Miami -3, but I think that Jets +3.5 just looks better and better. The Jets put up a good game against a pretty decent Steelers defense last week. I think Miami's defense might be on par. Secondary might be a little bit better. Zach Wilson first game back didn't look horrible, but 24 points up on the board, had that receiving touchdown from Berrios. But yeah, I think that this could be a fun game to watch. I marked this as one of my fantasy favorites, just because the Jets players are becoming more fantasy relevant. You got Breece Hall looked good last week. Wilson's looked good the last couple of weeks. Elijah Moore has been a favorite target of Wilson last year, and Wilson targeted him a good amount yesterday. And on the Miami side, you got Tyreek Hill and Waddle's tips. Can't talk today. You got Waddle and Hill on the Miami side, and I think that Teddy Bridgewater is going to do enough to get them the ball and let them get some yards after the catch and let their superstars make some plays.
Sure. I know Waddle has a quad injury that he's working through. I think he's probably still going to play based on I think he played through it quite a bit on Thursday night. 10 days rest. You're hoping that he gets back there. But without Tua, the offense really did not quite look right with Teddy Two Gloves there backing it. I think that, yes, there'll be enough firepower, but you're just going to get a lot more safety. And that caps a lot of the upside that Miami has to offer. I think this will be if this will be a win, this will be a close game. The Jets in general have pretty good offensive firepower, and at the very least, that line's working for them pretty well right now. And again, with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Breece Hall, that's enough for me to say, okay, these guys are racking up points. They're moving the ball. I can live with Zach Wilson existing in that scenario, just like I can live with Jared Goff leading Detroit. He's gonna get you fantasy points, but every week he's still gonna be 3 points short, right? So that's fine for me. If he's gonna be if the Jets are gonna leave it out 3 points short, they're still in it. They still have something to play for. Their division is right now is not that far out of reach. Don't want to say that that's actually a possibility, but they're going to be playing hard for this game at home. They know Miami's kind of got some hotness on them right now. They've had 2 really tough games back to back. I would not be surprised second road game that Miami comes out a little flat, and the Jets can take this one. And at 3.5, I'm going to make that a best bet for me. Let's see. Moving right along, we've got Houston at Jacksonville. Jacksonville is -7.5, and over is 44.5 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, Jacksonville is -7. I was leaning Jacksonville when it was -6.5. It's starting to move up and up and up, and it's kind of just making it a straight avoid for me. Joe, what do you got from this game?
Well, when we we're looking at this originally, the over-under was set at 43, and I loved that price point there. It's moved up to 44.5. I still think that I'm going to take that as a best bet for the week. Jacksonville has shown that they can put up 20-plus points a game the last couple of weeks. And, Houston has some good players there. They don't have total slouches there, but divisional game, I think that these are 2 relatively average defenses. I think that these offenses can put some points up on the board here.
So the only thing for me in this game is when Jacksonville's putting up points, they're playing high-powered offenses like the Eagles and Los Angeles Chargers. Even a hobbled Herbert, I get that. And then last week, Houston puts up points at home against those same Chargers that are putting up a lot of points against them. I guess the only thing that gives me hesitation against the over and sort of makes all of this an avoid for me is I don't know if either of these teams have the motivation to put up points like that. I think they both are really they both seem like they want to run the ball as much as they can. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback, and you can expect him to perform pretty well at home here, or you'd hope that he would perform really well at home. But I'm having a hard time seeing either of these guys put up 30, and I feel like one or the other is only going to put up 15 at the most, 14. And so that's where I'm a little tough. It's a little tough for me to take the over here. It's just more of an avoid for me.
I like the 43 before the change here, because I could have very well seen this being like a 24-20 type game.
Yeah, 43 is definitely, but as it gets up to 20, 24, it's over 24-20 now. It's 24 and a half 20, right?
Yeah, 24-21, close enough.
Yeah.
But 2 field goals versus touchdowns, that can be a big difference in scoring wise. But really like that at 43. Still liking it at 44.5. This is probably the highest that I take. Anything higher than I'm not touching it.
And these are, again, we're going through our fantasy favorites. That was our last one, at least for the Sunday slate. We have Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Las Vegas, Kansas City as fantasy favorites as well. We're going to talk about them later in the show. But again, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles Chargers at Cleveland, Philly at Arizona, Miami at New York Jets, Houston at Jacksonville. Maybe not in that order, but those are our fantasy favorites. So if you have players in those games and you're feeling desperate, maybe break a tie in favor of those players on those teams, because we're feeling like a lot of these are going to put up some points. And let's move ahead to the games that are not so fantasy friendly. Buffalo, a fantasy juggernaut, versus the Pittsburgh Steelers with Kenny Pickett. They're minus 14 on both sites, and the over-under is 47 on DraftKings, 47.5 on FanDuel. I still am going to lean Buffalo takes it at 14. It's so hard. It's so many points. But I still feel like Buffalo takes this with a 14-point advantage. Unless they really feel like, okay, we can just straight up give up and the backdoor cover comes into play. I'm not betting that for you, though. I'm going to avoid this game in general.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. The Bills should win this game pretty outright, but 14 is a big, big number there.
Let's move right along. Seattle at New Orleans. New Orleans is minus 5.5 on both sites. 45.5 over under. I was leaning the Seahawks when they were getting 6.5, and it was even 7, I think, earlier in the week. But now it's slowly moving down to 5.5. I don't think that this is the fantasy game we saw last week in Detroit. I don't think New Orleans is that kind of team that's just going to put up. I don't think, again, neither of these teams feels like they have the impetus to put up extra points unless they're threatened and need to put those points up. I think Olave is a good player, and we're going to see him shine, and he might have some nice plays in this game. But 45.5, it's like right there in that not so sure, not 100% comfortable taking that line sort of area, and 5.5 is a little murky as well. So I am going to avoid this game.
Yeah, I did like Seattle at 6.5 as well. I think these things might look a little bit better with Andy Dalton than Jameis Winston. Maybe more so a more controlled offense. They looked relatively good against Minnesota. Again, it was international game, neutral field. Those games can always kind of not be a good basis for what's to come. But I don't think that Seattle's going to put up the points that they did last week against Detroit and have a big shootout like that. This New Orleans defense is, I would say, significantly better than what the Lions had to offer here. So I originally was going to like the over here, but I've kind of backed off of that, and this is kind of a game that I don't really want to touch too much based off the current numbers they got.
I'm starting to think if anything, you take the under. Both of these teams, I mean, these teams are going to be tired. They're both going to be tired. So I'm not expecting a ton of offensive output from either of these teams. So I think the under might be a play. We'll see if it goes up. I don't think that's going to happen either. I think it's just going to get worse and worse. So I would lean the under. If you want to do it, go for it. But again, let's move right along here. Chicago at Minnesota. Minnesota is minus 6.5 on DraftKings, minus 7 on FanDuel. And we've got a split at 43 and 44 between the two sites. I am going to take Chicago, believe it or not, as a best bet plus 7 right now. I think you got Minnesota coming back from London. Gonna have a little bit of that jet lag. Gonna have that win. I know it's at home, but divisional game. Tough game. Chicago showed that they had that they were hanging tough with the Giants. Not that they're a huge offensive team, but they were putting it up. And honestly, I think this game just doesn't have a lot of points in it in general. And with that, I think 7 points is kind of enough for me to really wanna just give him that 7. I think at the end of the day, this could end up being a 14-10 game.
I hope you're ready to drink out of a shoe again next week, because this is going to be our Shuey for week 5. I like Minnesota at 6.5 here, and I'll be kind, and we can make the Shuey at 7. I'll give you the half point there, and we can put it down, make it official that Mark's going to be drinking next week again.
No. Actually, you know what? You can have the 6.5. You can have the 6.5. It's fine. Let's give you the 6.5. If you want the 7 to be a wash, 7 can be a wash. And you know what? If it's actually okay, we'll take it at 7. 7's a wash. Okay, 7's a wash, but we push it to next week. Okay.
Are we doing 7 a true wash, or it's a wash where we both got to go?
No, 7 a true wash. 7 a true wash, but it's a double down. So next week.
Okay.
So week 6's Shuey will be 2 in a row. A double. I was I was thinking about this. Well, because I know, like, I'm cool with drinking whatever out of a shoe. That's not a problem. But I don't want to. I don't want to push any sort of promote drinking in an irresponsible manner. So I want to see if you'd be cool with this. If you want to, the way we're going to do it, it can just be any liquid that you can find in 12-ounce form, right? Any liquid you can find in 12-ounce form out of a shoe. It can be alcohol, but we're not going to make it alcohol. It doesn't have to be alcohol. You want to put a Starbucks Frappuccino at 12 ounces in a boot.
Please do that.
Chug it.
Please do
like,
that. Please
I think
do
this.
That.
I think, and for the content, I think it might be a little bit better if we can make it more than just like, oh, every week I'm going to chug a beer. I think if if some week you're chugging like, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. Yeah, Starbucks Frappuccino, that'd be good with me. So this one this week, unfortunately, it's going to be beer for me. That's what I got in the house.
Is it going to be a pounder again this week?
No, it's not going to be a pounder. I've got a nice Oktoberfest. I like my Sam Oktoberfest, so I'm gonna pound one of those on you tonight. But so Shuey right now, it's Chicago or Minnesota at 7, and we're pushing at 7. Okay, just to give it a little extra in time. I really hope it hits 7 right now. I really hope it's 7. Oh yeah. Oh wait. Okay, so hold on. Now that I'm thinking about that, would that mean I would have 7.5? 7 would be a push. 6.5 would be a loss, right? That's how that goes. Yeah. So I would need to cut. Yeah, I think we went in the other direction, but that's all right. We'll be all right. It'll be fine. Moving on. Tennessee at Washington. Tennessee's -2.5. Another game. This was a pick'em before. I'm still going to take Tennessee -2.5 here, though, as a best bet for me.
Same here. I'm taking Tennessee at -2.5. But on a positive note in this, the sleeper alert just came through that Brian Robinson's been medically cleared, and the Washington is activating him off the NFI list.
Wow. I wouldn't expect that he plays this week, but
good
for him. I mean, good for him. The fact that we're here in week 5 and he's like back and playing. Is back and ready to play, is great to hear. I can't imagine 5 weeks after a gunshot wound in any area that I would be doing anything other than probably just laying in bed. So good on Brian Robinson. Hope that his recovery is still moving well. It seems like it is. Hopefully we can see him out on the field and making his plays for Washington. But not in this game, because I would like Tennessee -2. But you know what? To be fair, I think Carson Wentz is going to carry most of those. Is going to lay most of those points for me. He's not looking good now. He had a pretty hot start against Jacksonville, against Detroit. Seem to be 2 fantasy wagon defenses to play against right now. Dallas, the Eagles. Not so much for Carson. And oh my God, would I love it if Sam Howell came back in. I still have hopes. Sam Howell, Rookie of the Year, 75 to 1. So let's hope that Sam Howell gets in here sooner than later, because I don't think that they're gonna let this ride much longer. And moving on, Detroit at New England. New England -2.5, 46.5 over/under on both sites. This also was a pick 'em. I'm still willing to bet New England -2.5. I get that they always make it close, but there is something to be said that they always lose these games by 3 points. And for me, that's not enough for me to do it against Belichick. So I'll take Belichick at home -2.5.
Yeah, my heart tells me Detroit at +2.5, but going to New England is a tough place to play. Doesn't matter who New England's quarterback is. That is a tough place to go and keep a close game, unless you're Baltimore. We have a good record there. That's beyond the point, though. But yeah, I think that this is a game that I probably won't touch, and kind of backing off Detroit the more that I think about it.
Yeah, I think this is the one. This is the game that Detroit just can't make it fantasy relevant. I think this is the one. There's
Yeah,
going to be one dud. It's hard. It's hard for me to see it.
They had a dud last week or week 3, right?
No, they played Washington, and it was like 30. They put up 30 points, I think.
Maybe
Detroit. Philadelphia hit the over. Detroit, Washington hit the over. Detroit.
Yeah, they put up points. I'm looking at from a quarterback perspective. The one week I put Jared Goff in, he put up like 12 points, but they scored 24 points as a team.
Was that the one that DeAndre Swift had a touchdown, and I think
Williams had 2 touchdowns or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, it is what it is. You can't expect it always from Jared Goff. He's not that good of a quarterback, but there are plenty of points being scored in Detroit.
And he went off this week without his running back 1, wide receiver 1, or wide receiver 2.
I know. I like to crap on Goff. Even though I did like him as where he was going in fantasy draft season, I was smashing drafting Goff at the time. Same thing here with Zach Wilson. What we were just talking about with Zach Wilson. I like the offensive pieces that they have going, and ultimately the team believes. While they're competitive, that's going to be enough. That's going to be enough for fantasy success for me. So I don't think that they're going to be in it forever. I don't think it's going to last forever. But right now, New Jets, Detroit, they both have bad enough defenses and enough offensive pieces that they can make games kind of a fantasy wagon kind of thing. And still, we did not take the over Miami at New York. I think it's the Teddy Bridgewater effect, really. All right, moving on. San Francisco at Carolina. We are both taking this as a best bet. San Francisco -4.5. I hope you got it when it was -3. I really do. I hope you got it when it was -3. But I will take it at -4.5, and I am willing to move it all the way up to 5.5 as well.
I'm in full agreement with you there. When I first looked at this, that 40 looked kind of nice for the under. Carolina hasn't really been able to do a whole lot, but I think I'm just going to stick with taking the spread here with San Francisco and not betting the over under there. I always get kind of sketched out on those marks right around 40.
The problem for me is I think this is the game. I think this is the one where it was almost there. It was pretty much there this week against Arizona where the Boo Birds were out. They're calling for Sam Darnold's or not Sam Darnold's head. He's playing worse than Sam Darnold right now. Calling for Baker Mayfield's head, calling for Rule's head, and I know it's been in the media, but my goodness, they had to put out a release today that Sam Darnold's not going to be ready for this week. So something bad's going on. I think this might be the week against San Francisco where they just come out and rout them, and it's probably like it's the last, it's the nail in the coffin for their team. Either something's going to happen where Rule gets fired, and my goodness, we'll have Ben McAdoo as the head coach for probably. But I think this is it. San Francisco's too good of a team, too disciplined. Again, Jimmy G's not amazing quarterback, but he knows how to manage this team, and they're going to be well enough off to just keep Baker down. I don't think they really let any, their Carolina's defense has been helping them out early in these games, but I think San Francisco is going to be the team that puts them down early, and there's just not enough for them to get back. Let's move ahead. Dallas at the Rams. The Rams are -4.5 and 5.5 on FanDuel, and 45.5 is the over/under. Right now, I'm kind of leaning Rams -4.5. When it was Cowboys +6, I was taking Cowboys +6, but now that it's moved down to 4.5, I'm probably leaning Rams. I'm probably avoiding though.
Yes, I like the Rams. Ooh, that's some audio coming through, Nick. Testing it out. Yeah, no, I can't hear it anymore.
You got me? Is it still coming through?
Test. Yeah. But I'm going to keep talking while you're figuring that out. I like the Rams at -6. I think this could have been another Shuey opportunity here this week. But I'm going to take a bet on the Rams at 4.5 here. I think that this week, tonight against San Francisco, I said that I think that the Rams are going to try to move things along and get things back up to speed. And I think it's going to carry over next week. They're going to be at home. And I mean, Dallas has looked to have a pretty decent defense so far, but I think that the Rams are going to be clicking on all cylinders after this week. And I'm going to take them at -4.5 against the Cowboys.
My headphones kicked out on there at the end, so I think that might have been something to do with it. But I'm going to try and keep it. I'm going to try and keep it brief and quiet. I'll keep myself on mute when I need to. Yeah, it's enough for me to avoid with Dak Prescott coming back. I don't know if that's enough for this to be a big win. But it is going to be a short week for the Rams against San Francisco. I'd probably take the Rams to win. I'd be more interested in the money line though. And moving right along to our primetime games, finishing out the week, we got Sunday Night Football, Cincinnati at Baltimore on Sunday night. And again, we're in lockstep on our last three. We're both taking Baltimore -3 for this game. I think ultimately we're gonna see some offensive changes here going forward. They're not gonna be in the rain. They're gonna play up for this game. Lamar has still been awesome, and like I said earlier this week, if it weren't for Tua getting hurt and being pulled out of that game, and we really hope that Tua recovers soon and is healthy and in good standing here going forward. But honestly, I don't think Cincy looked all that great. I think they had a couple big plays that kept them in the game. But if they were not going to be able to go score for score with Miami if they were still in it, and Tua and Tyreek and Waddle were in full click mode. I think they were kind of just lucky to get it out, and they even covered in the end with a I think it was a pick six right there at the end. So I'm hoping I'm hoping that they show that Baltimore is the better team, and yeah, I just don't believe in Cincinnati that much. I do like the offense, but don't believe them as a team right now.
I am also taking the Ravens as a best bet here, and I like it, and it pains me. But Cincinnati has had our number last year. They put up 41 points on us both games. I think that the over in this game at 47.5 is another one that I might take a bet on before I head up there on Sunday. And yeah, the 47.5 I really like. I think this could very well be like a 31-28, 31-24 type of game. It could be pretty high scoring, hit that 50 mark.
I'd love to see it. And let's move along to our last one, Las Vegas at Kansas City. Monday Night Football, Kansas City just put the hurting on Tampa Bay. Again, they took it personal, that Super Bowl loss. They're -7.5 on both sites, 51 and 51.5 on FanDuel as the over-under. I'm going to lean Kansas City here still. I think Las Vegas did their best to get their first win this week. But I don't think they're going to have as good of a chance next week. 7.5, it's too much for me to take on them right now. I do think it'll be high scoring. That 51, it came down actually. It moved up quite quickly up to like 52.5 or 53. I can't remember exactly what it ended up being, but moved its way back down now to 51. You know, when you watch Mahomes pretty much do it all on his own, putting up almost 50, it's kind of hard not to want to take that over, right?
That crazy 360 pass.
How about the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pass where he just blooped it over over everyone's head in the end zone?
In the corner?
Yeah, in the corner.
Yeah, so he was running down. He did the 360. And
then yeah, that's right. There's a lot of interesting touchdowns in that game. The quarterback check to Kelsey that ended up being a direct snap to Noah Gray. That was really interesting. Honestly, the Chiefs down by the goal line are probably the most creative team in the NFL. And honestly, they don't. What's good about them for so many years, because they had Tyreek Hill, they show their cards obviously from time to time, but they don't show all of them. And they have plenty of these plays that just continue to just be like anything to get you 2 yards. They just seem to have. And they just don't show it until they get down into the red zone. It's really very interesting to watch them when they get down into the red. So that's it for us right now. We've got our best bets. I'm going to run down mine. I had the Jets plus 3.5, Chicago plus 7. That's our Shuey this week. Tennessee minus 2.5, San Francisco minus 4.5, and Baltimore minus 3. Shuey, go for it.
Hit that end button real quick. I've got Philly, Arizona over 49.5. I got Houston, Jacksonville over 44.5. Tennessee minus 2.5. San Francisco minus 4.5, and Baltimore minus 3. And looking forward to making Mark do 2 Shueys in a row here.
I don't think it's going to happen. But everybody, have a great week. Please go ahead and get San Francisco minus 1.5. How about that? You know what we could do is if we hit minus 7, we can make this one the tiebreaker if you really want. We'll talk about it later. But anyway, have a great week. Make sure you're smart with your betting. We're doing this mostly just for fun, and we're not trying to bet outside of our means. If you do have a problem gambling, please seek help if you need it. And we'll see you out there on the betting streets, out there in the fantasy streets. Go ahead and win some leagues this week, and we'll see you in week 6.